Massive move on the 15-minute chart, pretty zoomed in on Bitcoin. When we look at the swing low back here on the 15-minute, right now up around 4, just over 4 to 5%. It's a pretty big move on the very short term for this $28,000 crypto. I want to do this video right now because this is a critical level on the short term, even as it applies actually to the macro chart. So there's caution to kind of be warranted here. And I want to discuss what that looks like. But that caution is kind of integrated within this signal area, this confirmation, a bullish confirmation area. And wait till we start dissecting what a breakout could look like and what upside is in play for Bitcoin. So we're going to cover all angles, especially on the zoomed in, so we get a sense of what's happening right here and why it's so important. So let's just do this. Hit the subscribe. Hit the like button, everybody, as we get this started. And let's start over here on the hourly chart. Now, this pattern that you see in yellow is complete. I just left it here so we can kind of put it to rest. We had the ascending triangle. Bitcoin was consolidating at a very crucial resistance area that we anticipated. It's kind of that $28,000, $29,000, $30,000 area, which we're going to look at in a minute. But we got a fake breakout to the upside, a false breakout, and kind of turned into a busted pattern where we get the opposite direction. Target almost perfectly hit to the downside. This pattern complete. So we can kind of remove that now. It helped kind of guide us on the short-term hourly chart. And here's the new setup of structure. And what's happening right now is Bitcoin is bouncing off of a very key area. We go to the daily chart. That key area is kind of this upper trend line of this rising channel that we've been tracking. We're going to continue just including it as a part of this story because this is the big story for Bitcoin right now. It's kind of the revisit right around that upper trend line area, that throwback. The support is there, and right now Bitcoin's putting in a daily candle. Wait till you look at what Bitcoin might be getting ready to do to the upside when we start looking at the weekly chart if Bitcoin can break this resistance. For resistance, we go to the 6 hour to really get a nice picture of what that looks like. So there's the move right here in terms of what Bitcoin's doing on the short term. Very choppy, very indecisive, right? A lot of just probably fear within yesterday's candle, that revisit to the downside. And right now, maybe a bit of FOMO. But the FOMO should probably be kind of careful because you can just see Bitcoin on the 6 hour just revisiting where it was before it fell. And that area that it was before it fell is at that very critical area of resistance. We zoom out on the 6 hour, we get a sense, once again, what that looks like. And it's not to be repetitive, but the resistance is just there. We anticipated it before we even got there. And it's just this general area back here. And this was when Bitcoin was falling. This is May 2022, Bitcoin falling, a bit of consolidation before falling further. So the question is right now, Bitcoin hitting the same range after kind of exiting this upper trend line in this rising channel, Bitcoin hitting the same range. Is it going to consolidate sideways before continuing further up? Kind of the inverse of what it did back here, right? This was the falling into the bear market low. And maybe this could be Bitcoin exiting the bear market for good and really at the very least getting separation. Not to say that we're entering the bull market right now, but there's kind of that in-between zone, bear market and bull market. And Bitcoin might be putting in or telling that story on these charts. Now, this is where we start, I think, getting really helpful context. We've already noted it's at a key resistance area. The reason I'm kind of doing this video right now is because I'm really curious to see how Bitcoin on the very short term, this is an hourly, interacts with this resistance area that it's at as I do this video right now. And this is kind of why I think it's good to be careful. And when I say be careful, for me, what that means is just mentally don't get this bullish confirmation, right? Just because we're getting some green to the upside. That's what I mean by be careful. In terms of how anybody out there is kind of attacking the charts and attacking their approach to crypto, that ball is in your court. I'm just tracking my story here. But for me, it's kind of like be careful. Don't zoom too much into the 15-minute chart and get all excited because you have a few green candles. Because right now Bitcoin's at key resistance. We're going to track that. But let's check this out. This is where things kind of put things into perspective about, well, if Bitcoin breaks that resistance, this is what's in play. First thing to just look at, the weekly candle on Bitcoin right now, just looking nice so far. Still 3 days, 9 hours left, but look at this wick on the weekly, and it really just kind of extends right down real quick to the upper trend line. So even getting a picture of that throwback on the weekly, it just looks nice from a macro perspective. Now, we've already noted probably multiple times, we're above the 200, the 50, the 20-day or 20-week moving averages. This is huge for Bitcoin exiting the bear market. It's not to say there's not going to be a huge throwback to these areas, but this is a huge pivot picture. Now, when we start zooming out on the weekly, this is where things could get bullishly exciting, right? And I'm not trying to hype anything up, throw any hopium out there, but I'm just collecting data and showing what's possible. If we look at where Bitcoin is right now on the RSI, the slower moving momentum oscillator, you can see it's just below overbought, right? There's a lot of room for a bullish move to the upside. There's a lot of room for Bitcoin to kind of explode to its targets. And if we go over here just to the daily chart, this is the target. It's right around $40,000 out of this rising channel, a $40,000 target, and it's in play. And it's in play when we start looking at macro charts like this weekly. To give you an idea of what that could look like, I just want to just show you two areas of the charts. I know times are different. I know that Bitcoin is in different parts of the cycle, but in the 2019 exit out of the bear market, it's very similar to the time frame of the cycle. And Bitcoin, even with everything going on in the world, just making a very similar move. But the first area I want to look at is just really kind of the beginning of the bull market, right? Look at this move. You would think just at just kind of this, without looking at a momentum oscillator, without looking, well, when Bitcoin made this move, like there's a lot, that's a huge move. It must have been kind of towards the oversold area before making that move, right? Because there's so much upside to get to overbought. But you go to the RSI and it's kind of like, well, no, it was actually just below the overbought area when it started making the move. So it was kind of right here and it exploded to the upside. That just gives you a sense of an idea of, on the weekly slower movement momentum oscillator, how much upside there is from an area like this, right? So a $40,000 target is believable in that regard. And the other thing is 2019, I know I keep talking about it. I got a comment yesterday, you can't compare it because times are different, but I don't know, everybody. I continue to maintain this stance that technical analysis, even with crazy world events going on, even with just crazy fear with the banking situation and the Fed raising rates again yesterday and everything going on, the technical analysis has remained so sound. And if you watch my videos for over 5 years, you just see that consistency. It's nothing I do. It's just the charts are just doing that, right? And so I think makes sense to compare 2019, especially because the move is so similar. We're kind of right around this just May 2019 move. And if we look at that momentum oscillator, check out that. So if we're right around here as it's breaking the 50-week moving average, you can just see right when that's happening, Bitcoin just below that overbought area. And then it kind of comes out overbought, dips back in, puts in another swing high. So momentum oscillator, there is just all that room in those two bullish scenarios, those two bullish comparisons for Bitcoin to make a move to the upside. Now, I started this video just explaining, I think it's warranted to use caution here because this might fail, right? If we go to the daily chart, Bitcoin's at resistance and we can't ignore that, right? And so that's why I do technical analysis. I like to evaluate on the shorter term areas of confirmation so that it's, you put emotion aside and you kind of just wait for confirmations. And right now, Bitcoin's at this area of resistance. It would not surprise me at all on the shorter term if Bitcoin just sees resistance once again, teases everybody right now in this 6-hour candle, and just comes and retests this upper trend line. And in regards to the upper trend line, we talked about yesterday, there's no guarantees, and I believe I said this, no guarantees that will hold as support. But we're in the very critical area of resistance and support, and it's a matter of what direction is Bitcoin going to explode through, right? To the downside, I need to mention this. If we look at the daily, those moving averages down here for Bitcoin to kind of fall back into this rising channel is possible, right? This could be a kind of a fake breakout like we just saw at the beginning of the video on that short-term ascending triangle, and we can come back down and start testing the moving averages to the downside. 24,000 as the 20-day moving average, 24,400 or so, 50-day right there, 23,700. So that's the area of support if Bitcoin just straight up sees resistance, can't hold support, and just falls, right? That's the area to the downside I'm watching. Wanted to briefly mention it without focusing too much on it, but right now we're at a very critical area on the zoomed in, on the hourly. This is what I'm watching today, right now, because this is a short-term move to resistance that Bitcoin has already been testing. Most previously, before yesterday's big fall, big crash to the downside, Bitcoin makes its way back up. Would not be surprised to start seeing more structure. Will it be some type of ascending triangle, right? We can only wait and see, but that's what I'm tracking right now. Everybody, let me know your thoughts out there. Are you bullish? Are you bearish? What do you think is next? It's 50-50 from what I see in the comments, but we're just tracking it. Emotion aside, let's see what Bitcoin does. Let's see what crypto does. Hit the subscribe, hit the like. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.